Hi YouTube, my name's Amy, and today I'm going to start painting this hideous vanity top of laminate faux marble. So yeah, I can't take it anymore, so I need to paint this thing. I don't want to spend $1,000 to get a new vanity top right now and a new faucet and sink, so painting is what I'm going to do. So I've had good luck with this primer before. It's Insl-X Stix. I believe it's a Benjamin Moore product, and I love Ben Moore paints. I've painted my whole house and using Ben Moore's, so I highly recommend those products. I even used Ben Moore to paint this little Henry Link Valley High hutch behind me, and I used the Insl-X Stix primer for that, and a color called I forget what color I used, but I'll link it in the description. But anyway, I'm going to just be painting this a white color, and we're going to first do some removal of caulk and sand and then put on the primer, and I'll show you the steps along the way. Okay, these are some of the tools I'm going to use to start scraping the caulking off. Okay, right now I'm just using this like a utility knife, a little blade, and I'm cutting along the side here to try to get some of this caulk off. I don't know if you can see, it looks like it's lifting now that I cut it. Not too bad. I also used this. Okay, so I scraped as much as I could of the caulk around the sink. You can see all my scrapings and everything, and around the corners. Try not to damage the walls as much as you can. I'm going to have to do some paint touch up. But yeah, I'm going to get this sweeped up, and then I'm going to use some goof off just to get around the sink to make sure that's all really good and clean and there's no residue left. Goof off adhesive gunk remover gel. And I think it says you're supposed to leave this on for like 15 minutes. Okay, now we're putting on our gloves. We're going to clean off the goof off, and then we're going to use TSP substitute cleaner. Let's get the goof off with a paper towel first. Removes heavy dirt, grease, grime, smoke, and soot stains. Cleans and prepares surfaces prior to painting. It's probably going to smell a bit. Better turn on the fan. Using gloves with this, it's a strong chemical. Yeah. You can see all the excess goof off that it's picking up right now. Honestly, this countertop is looking better. Maybe I won't paint it. No, I'm kidding. But wow, that TSP really does something to the color though. Interesting. All right, I'm gonna go over this again. I'll do 150 to start, I think, and that's pretty strong grit. Yeah, that's what we're gonna start with. A little nervous to do this, but gone this far. It's not gonna look worse. So here goes nothing. Start in the corner here. This is so your primer sticks better. You could use an orbital sander or, my hand sander, but here's the front. Also underneath here, the wood that supports the laminate is starting to fall out. It's gotten so wet over the years that painting that and using that polyacrylic top coat and putting some underneath there is going to really protect that from chipping away further and flaking off. That sandpaper went under and I got more of that caulk out. And back here. I'm going to go through and use my tweezers. Yeah, I want to get a little bit more of these little nibs sticking up. Right now I'm wiping off with one of these shop cloths. I got it wet and you can see it's collecting a lot of debris that, even though I wiped with the paper towel, is still on there. So I'm going to continue to wipe with a damp cloth. You can see it because it's blue, obviously, but it lets you know that you need to keep wiping because you want this surface to be so smooth with no hair, nothing on it, because it will show up. It's so tedious, isn't it? I've been working over 2 hours just cleaning and prepping this. So I keep wiping, and I'm going to get another wet cloth and wipe some more. Get it dry, and then tape. I like using green frog tape. So much better than using blue tape. So I'm going to do the wall up here. It's been a couple of weeks since I've used this primer. I only like to pour a little at a time. Cover it up. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to start in the corner, I think, over here. Oh my god. Can't believe I'm doing this. Takes guts, I say. Insl-X is kind of a thick primer. I'm not sure about its leveling, if it levels out nice or not. But I'm liking this primer here for what I'm doing. I feel like it's doing what it's supposed to. It's sticking. And actually this little sponge is actually quite nice. It lets me get in here behind the faucet. Now I always have a rag nearby for mistakes, and I have a wet rag in my pocket. Sometimes it's helpful to use your little paintbrush and just get it lightly in those corners. The Insl-X does not smell bad. It's a waterborne primer, okay? But it's got the power, sticking power of an oil-based primer. It's a newer technology. Your primer's like a glue for the surface, but it's also a glue for your paint or the next level of layer of primer. So when you sand away too much, you kind of get rid of some of that. I am going to be using a semi-gloss paint on this vanity. I could use high gloss. High gloss shows more flaws. Don't press too hard. I'll go with the other side of the roller so I can get in there. Okay, now I'm going to go on the other side with this little sponge. I'm sure there's other tools you can use that would work better. Now you can see I got lots of lines happening here, right? I'm not worried about it, not yet. Now I am going to have to sand, I know that. And it's sometimes difficult to know how much you're supposed to sand. But layer upon layer, it gets better and better. So, it doesn't look good on the backsplash there, but especially right here, it looks like kind of drippy. Yeah. So it looks terrible. But I'm going to put this stuff in plastic bags and come back in probably 3 or 4 hours. Okay, so we're back for the second round of paint, but before we can do that, we're going to do a little bit of sanding. Yeah, we'll try the 400 grit and maybe the sanding block that I have. You want to get in the corners because there's some areas that are, you can feel them. So you want to get rid of those. At the top here. just sanding lightly. And I'm using my fingers to help guide where I feel any kind of pool or puddle. Because if you don't get those puddles level, they just multiply. Those puddles get bigger and bigger, and you don't want that. But I can also see that I'm taking off a lot of primer by sanding too much. So there's that sweet spot. I like this. These sanding blocks work so nicely. You can get them in different grits. But yeah, I've been using this one a lot. I used it on this cabinet here. And now I'm using it on my countertop. It feels pretty good. I'm not feeling a lot of raised spots. So I did wait 3 hours, which is what is recommended. It went by fast. So sometimes we're in a rush. We want to get everything done right away. But patience is important. When you want to do something well, you gotta wait. And also the Benjamin Moore Advanced Paint is a 16-hour curing time before you can sand and paint over. So that's a long wait. So usually, you paint and you wait a day, and then the next morning you sand it, and then clean it, and then paint it. So by the time you do those 3 steps, that you're pretty tired and you're ready for a break anyway. So yeah, I'm glad I'm getting 2 coats of primer on today and getting it all prepped. That's actually pretty good for me. And we'll see what it looks like after 2 coats of primer today. I might need to do 3. And I'm good with that. Okay, so I think I got that good enough. That's actually a pretty good sanding, and you want to be careful not to do too much because you're going to break down the bonding of this if you do too much, I've read. So I'm going to clean it up now, and then we're going to put our second coat of primer on. Next, I'm going to take this rag dry and wipe it. Look at all that. It didn't get it all up with the vacuum cleaner. Yep, a lot's still coming off. Wow. Get really good back here behind the sink. Yeah, look at all that dust. Now I'm going to get one of these wet and do the same thing, because you don't want any of that residue left behind. Okay, so now we're going to let this dry for a bit, and then we get to put on our next coat of primer, which will make a big difference. Okay, so now we're going to pour our primer back in this little tray here. I like to use these trays from fast food or going to the grocery store, and you get those little entrees. I don't throw them out, I keep them, and I use them for my paint projects. This is perfect for a 2-inch roller. So yeah, recycle those. Okay, didn't pour too much paint in there, but I'm going to start with my little sponges in the corner again. Remember, I put these in plastic bag to keep them from drying out, and so I didn't need to wash them because it's been over 4 hours since, and you don't want to leave those out, because if you do, they get all dried up and it's hard to get get them rinsed and washed and cleaned for your second round.
We're not going to touch it more, just let it be. Let it do its thing to the best of its ability and trust in the process.
Okay guys, good night. I'll see you tomorrow. This is 2 coats of primer with sanding in between. Now I'm going to sand it again and prime it again. Okay, so here is the paint, 1 coat of paint on my countertops. This side is pretty good. I see some brush strokes though. But overall it's fine. Over here it gets really bad. I'm going to be sanding and sanding. I don't know if you can see it on the camera here, but yeah, it got pretty textured. Even though I was using the techniques that they wanted me to use, I'm going to be sanding probably about an hour with cleanup. Yeah, so I'm gonna get at it. Okay, I've been sanding for over an hour now, and I still have some orange peel. You can see it a little bit right there. You can see where it's shiny in little spots and not in others. And this was the good side. And it's like taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. So today when I paint later, after I get this all cleaned up, I am going to water down the paint a little bit, and I might use that other roller, the mohair combo one, to see if I can get away with that. The dry brushing that I was doing, it left a lot of brush strokes and it didn't get rid of all those little orange peel things. So this is a very difficult thing to do, to get that super smooth finish even on a flat surface. So it's not easy, people. Yeah. So I'm going to keep going at it with my 400 grit sandpaper for a little bit longer, and I'll record that for you to see, and then I'm going to clean up and wipe it up really good and try those different paint ideas and hopefully get a smoother finish. Okay. I see a lot right here now. When you come see it at different levels, you're like, oh, I see more. And you just keep going. But sooner or later, you gotta say to yourself, that's it. Trying to get this in the corner really good. So yeah, this will be very interesting. I know there's lots of skeptics. I don't blame you. I'm even a bit of a skeptic about this, how this is gonna hold and wear. Especially because it's not one of those that is marketed a countertop paint, and it's not epoxy. People say, oh, spray paint, appliance paint. Yeah, that'll smell good. Ugh, you definitely have to wear a mask. There's no windows. That would fume up my house for a month using spray paint. I know people do it, but not me. Because it's bad enough when you're outside. Okay, this is really rough right here. And I can see some rough right here, so I gotta keep going with the sanding. once you wipe it clean and everything, you can see and feel better what's going on. So it's good to continue to do that. And this side looks and feels pretty good from what I can see with the light. And it gets bad right here. I think partly because of this stupid paint or tape. Back to more sanding right here because it's not good. I think that's better right there. Yeah. Now I have to wipe that really good again. I'll use the same cloth for now. Now, it's curious, like, how much paint did I take off? Like, you know, you can kind of see where it might be paint and where it might be the primer underneath, or where it is at the actual countertop, because you can still see some bleed through. So, yeah, I think I've taken off a lot. And you know, this happened when I did that little cabinet here. You know, you would paint and then sand, and then look like you'd be back to square one. Until you get, you know, that second layer of paint, and then you're like, yes, now it's coming together. However, I sprayed that one when I got to the paint. Not the primer, because the primer was too thick. Okay, now I'm going to wipe again with the dry cloth. And then I'll take the wet rag and wipe that with the wet and let it dry. Okay, so I got everything cleaned out. I'm gonna pour a better size amount today. A little bit more. Dripping. I should probably be using distilled water for this, but I don't have any, so I'm just doing this. I just know that that paint was too thick yesterday. I'm just gonna do like 2.5 teaspoons. I'm gonna mix this up really good, and I hope that it'll level. Now I'm stirring gently because I don't want to create bubbles either, but the paint was just too thick. And it's a really good paint, it covers so good, but sanding all that takes forever. It's going to be drippy, but I think it'll be more workable. Now I just have to hope and pray that watering it a little down. Yeah, we don't want that orange peel, and we don't want those streaks from the brush. I'm gonna work in little panels, get a little bit of paint on. Hope it goes better today. I didn't think it went bad yesterday, but the paint is still tacky from yesterday. I can feel it when I put my hand on it and when I was sanding. So I don't think that's a great thing. But I did let it dry for 16 hours, so I did what I was supposed to. So that's good. And it is a little humid today. More humid. I don't know if it's more humid, than yesterday, but I don't have the fan on my back right now because I don't want this to dry too quick. I gotta get used to using a lighter touch. I pressed too hard, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna take my time a little bit more today and just pray for the best. I'm trying to be really good about it today. Okay, now I'm going to take my roller and go to this area. Just had my paints in plastic bags last night, my paintbrushes, my roller, and put the lid on the paint and wrapped them in plastic so that they don't dry out. That way I didn't have to clean my brushes last night. Oh, this is falling off. Get on there. Wonder why he doesn't want to stay on there nice. Now I can already see the orange peel, and even like, because it doesn't roll, it literally leaves brush marks. I wonder if I'm better off not even rolling today and just paint with the brush the whole thing. There's a thought, right? Try cross hatching now, or what's the point of rolling when you're going to get those marks anyway? You're going to get orange peel and drag from the roller. Which is worse? Do I have more control with the brush? I don't know. I think I do if I'm going to be brushing over it anyway. If it levels, that's the thing. And do you go from the corner all the way across? Yes, you do. I wish you could see this better, but I can't paint and hold the camera at the same time, so it's not exactly the best view. I think watering the paint down helped. I do. I see the brush marks. This is hard. So hard to do. I don't know. Okay, now it's going to get a little tricky going around the sink. I'm at least trying to keep my brush strokes level. You know, I don't want them being wavy this way, wavy that way either. Stupid sink. Wish me luck, people. This has been a lot of work, and I knew it was going to be. I knew it was going to be. I don't want to be going over this that much. I think most people probably are more carefree about this than I'm being. I'm guessing. Or they have better paint skills. It's just hard. It was leveling nice right there. Can't seem to get enough paint on. And I don't know if I'm using too much paint or very little paint. I guess I'm afraid of all the mistakes that I'm aware of. You know, I'm afraid of brush strokes. I'm thinking of so many different things right now. Okay, I'm going to turn off the camera for now and finish this up, and I'll show you when I'm finished. Okay, so here's the countertop. It leveled out pretty good, better than the previous layer. There's a couple little areas I need to sand down. I'm actually going to go over all of it. Like here you can see brush strokes pretty good. There's a ding here. You can see that. There's some over here. A couple little specks. But yeah, you can definitely still see brush strokes and spots, and feel them, but it's better than the previous layer. So that's promising. I think one more coat, really light. I might even lighten the paint or water the paint down even a little bit more today, maybe with another teaspoon, and see if I can't get that smoother finish, but it's all right. Okay, so I sanded this all down as smooth as I could get it, and I think it looks pretty good. I can't really sand anymore. So I've decided to, instead of just making it all white and putting, the top coat on, that I'm actually going to make it look more like granite. I have like 2 or 3 different kinds of white that I think will give it more of a granite look, and I'll cover some of the flaws. And then I might add a little bit of the wall color I have here and mix it in with one of the other colors, because that color isn't advanced formula. It's it's just the wall paint. So I think I can get away with it if I mix it in with one of the other white colors and see if I can't get a more stone look to this, but subtle. The whole thing is I didn't want all that detail with the countertop as originally had it. It pulled too much attention, and I wanted a more light, airy feel in this room. So, but I think the white is too flat and stark to even look like, a white countertop that you would get at Menards or whatever, a plain white marble or whatever. It just doesn't have that look. It just looks like it's been painted, and I don't love that. So I'm going to try to make it look a little more like granite and see how it goes. All right, here we go. Okay, so I decided yesterday, instead of putting on that 3rd coat of just plain white primer, that it looked too plain. And so I decided that I was going to use some crumpled up bags and put different colors on to make it look more like stone. But unfortunately, when I did that, I made it so texturized that now it's at risk of getting water and toothpaste and all that texture, which isn't good. I want it to be more like a smooth surface. And even though I'm going to polyacrylic the top coat, it's still too much texture. So now I am sanding again to get rid of all this texture, and we'll see what it ends up looking like after I sand it till I get it smooth, if there's any coloring left or not. But it looks pretty bad right now, so I'm pretty upset. In some spots it doesn't look bad, like on the backsplash. I think I got like a good level of, color, but on the top I put too much and it ended up looking blotchy, and now I got to sand this stuff off. So I'm kind of annoyed, but anyway, getting to work sanding and sanding. Okay, now I sanded it down to a smooth finish. It took forever, and you can still see the blotchy mistakes I made when I was trying to do like that faux granite look. So now I need to paint over it white again, and then I'm going to try a different technique of getting just a little bit of the taupey color that I was able to get on the backsplash more, just sparingly. Okay, wish me luck. Okay, here it looks painted over. It's still wet. You can see some bleed through. It's shady in certain areas. Definitely can see my brush marks. I left the backsplash the way it is and the side splash, and I'm debating just keeping that way and then keeping the countertop itself without the splatters. or try to replicate that again without all the texture, because I don't want the texture on the countertop. Okay, YouTube, here is the final paint job that I decided to go with. I did a gentle veining with some flecks of paint. I think it looks pretty good. I mean, I'm satisfied with it, and it takes a lot for me to be satisfied. I thought about just doing just the plain white, but then it just looked painted. And I know this is another faux finish, and I just got rid of the laminate, which was faux, but I think this looks much better than the brown laminate that I had. It just was so heavy and dark and pulled so hard. And this, I can't go any smaller. This just brightens up the whole bathroom. And it doesn't compete with the paint color. I can have my pictures on the wall and my little vanity in back, and it'll blend and look nice. So I think I'm going to get new cabinet pulls here. You're supposed to have knobs for doors and pulls for drawers, but I ended up doing the opposite. I actually have knobs for my drawers and I had pulls for my doors, but the pulls didn't really go with the knobs and they were getting kind of rusty and icky, so I think I'm going to just get some nicer pulls. And yeah, this took a lot of work. It was a lot of sanding. Again, I'm still not 100% pleased, but I think it looks so much better than what I had before.